Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Today is April 1st. Welcome to SIG CLI Blocker Bug, and our host today will be Eddie. Take it away, Eddie.
Cool. Thanks everyone for coming. You all can hear me, right?
I still can't hear you. I'm not sure if you're, am
I
I
think it's
the only
you.
one?
Brian,
That's
you can
mine?
hear me,
Okay.
right? Okay. All right. Mache will figure that out. We'll get started. I think so. Last time we said that we were going to start from the back this time because we have a ton of issues from like 2017. So I'll just get started sharing my screen. And let's see, who do we have in the chat and hanging around? Do we have Sean or Phil?
I'm around.
Cool. All right. So this first, I imagine these first couple are pinned here just because they have ongoing work. So this one is functions being two coupled to Cobra.
This actually is related to what Sean was recently talking about last time on SIG CLI. And that work has happened, and we will be encouraging people to work on this. This is about ensuring that first step was that we extracted the option structures for each of the commands. And the second option will be to ensure that the options and complete functions are not coupled to Cobra itself, but rather can be set separately. So it's definitely something that is happening all the time.
Yeah, it's a this would be an umbrella issue, I would imagine. And yeah, just what Mache said, and the options. So in order to be able to reuse the code in say controllers, we don't want to have the options know anything about the Cobra. But obviously the Cobra could know about the options, so the dependency could be one way but not the other. Does that make sense?
Totally. Do you have a running list of that work that we can get on here as like a checklist or something?
Actually, I only mentioned one. I guess I'm echoing. Sorry about that.
Oh, I'll mute.
Oh, is that my? Oh, okay. Yeah, there was only one PR that I introduced at the SIG CLI. Somebody else, I guess, brought this back to life, or was that? Yeah, this was a long time ago.
I'll leave a comment on that issue describing the overall approach, and I'll point to that particular PR, but I'll leave it after the meeting since
Yeah,
that'll be a longer comment, but I'll take care of that one.
okay, great. Yeah, the only command that we've looked at is the apply command.
Yeah, I remember that one. I'll link that one with the with this.
Okay. This one's transferring ownership of tests. Phil, you open this.
I don't know. What's the, maybe we don't need this anymore. I think we can close this. I don't think it matters that much anymore.
Cool. That's an easy one. kubectl CLI should more consistently and concisely convey discovery.
Can I see the description again? Is this from Clayton? I want to see all the resources that might be able to create. I think this is a feature request. Yeah. This would be nice, certainly, but.
Is there any way to make this slightly larger font? Thank you.
And this seems like maybe we should start labeling issues as like, I could see someone creating a plugin for this and then us eventually adopting it, like if it wanted to be upstreamed. It's its own independent. I'd imagine this would be its own independent command.
I mean, I think there are multiple issues or feature requests under this big one, some which are already implemented. Like API resources explain these two definitely work out of a box already. There are a couple more hidden over there in between the lines.
So what do you guys, do we want to keep this open? It's over 2 years old. Do we want to recommend this be implemented as a plugin?
I mean, I don't see this being done. It'd be nice to have like a parking lot. Maybe we can label these and mark them closed or something like that. Like, it's not done, and it's not something we. It's something that we'd love to have, but it's not going to get staffed likely. There's a lot of other, probably more urgent issues, and the incoming rate of work is not less than the completion velocity.
Leave it open for now as frozen then?
Yeah, is there a way to transfer issues between repos?
GitHub, yes, you can do that.
Because we could leave this open for now, and maybe we could create just a new repo that's like SIG CLI feature requests. And then that way just move, like, shuffle everything over there, and now we have like a list of feature requests that future leaders could always refer back to.
I mean, this already has a label feature, and it's in a frozen lifecycle. That's sufficient, and it was already moved from the main cube repo.
Do we just leave it open?
Could we create another project and put it in that?
Or maybe, yeah, that would be better.
The main thing is we want to get it off of the books, right? Like we don't want to see it in the list of issues that we do with the bug scrub. We could also do that through a milestone. It's possible to do searches that don't have milestone, to search for issues without milestones. So we could put it in a milestone that says unplanned work or something like that.
That's a good way to keep it all in one place. Who's going to take that action? Who can create that on GitHub?
I can do that right now.
Cool. Can you also close set number 74, Phil?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Would you mind sending me the link in Slack, and then I can just pull it up?
Okay. All right. Let's see. 123. Wait, is this a duplicate? No, I opened the same one. Okay. 132.
As I'm reading this, this is already implemented because we have the unstructured type. Maybe not necessarily that you are working with this as with actual Go types, because what we do is we translate any resource through a dynamic client into a map of string to interface, but that's as close as we can get from what I remember. at least at this point in time.
I'd vote for closing.
Yep,
Cool. Mache, can you close that?
sure thing.
Awesome. Remove registry usage.
This is done. We don't have a registry.
Yeah, we
We have a scheme.
we try to work with external types most of the time. The only piece, we even have our own scheme for kubectl, so I guess we can close it.
But one second. It looks like. Yeah, let's close.
Cool. That's easy. Mache, you close that, please?
Yep.
150. Awesome.
Could we just have a canned response that says, let's be honest, this is never going to happen. Let's just close the issue.
I mean, this
Antoine
is.
said that.
But I mean, honestly, that is mostly done. In the word, the only thing that I could think of for that particular issue is to have a scheme that will be tied to each and every single command. But I know we will be going as far with this.
But right now it's hard coded, right? The list of types, or does it use the discovery service?
We can do both, and depending on what do you allow. It can use either discover or it can use the hard coded.
But both are implemented.
Yep.
Okay.
If you use discovery, you're working with the unstructured because you don't have strict types. If you're using the built-in types, then you can have regular Go types and everything that you can normally do.
So does that mean it's done? Like I'd imagine if it uses the discovery service, that it's like this should be solved.
Yeah. Yeah. It reads the types and discovery from discovery and can get whatever information you care about from there.
Cool. So this next one is pretty active actually. And someone even brought up the crew plugin, get all, that does this. So there's just certain resources that don't show up when you do a get all without the plugin.
This one's been around for everybody loves to pile in on this one.
All, yeah, all is problematic. I remember and Jordan already closed it. Not sure why it was reopened. Overall, the idea is that all is an alias that should probably die along other bits. But I doubt we will be able to do it. All is server-side alias for a group of resources. When you are defining your own CRDs, you can define the aliases under which your resources will be available. I'm not sure if we allow all though. But definitely we will not be extending the current all.
Do we ever want to move the crew plugin functionality into kubectl core? Because things like persistent volume claims still don't show up for get all.
But persistent volumes are still part of the built-in types. So we would have to add them server-side to the OIS. I doubt we will do that. I think there was some PRs already, and they were close.
So do we just want to leave this open so people can fight on it?
I'll comment on there, and might just close it. I'll read through and see what the current issue is.
Okay. Seems like a reasonable request.
I agree.
Yeah. Maybe we could even tag this as good first time issue, because that's basically writing a new command, which should be pretty straightforward. The only hard part will be figuring out how to get that bits out of the config, but I assume that all the bits are already in place.
Does anyone on the call want to take this on as a good first issue or so? Anyone? Okay, I'll take this one if no one wants it. This seems pretty straightforward. Okay, moving on. 407.
I've seen a couple ZSH completion PRs recently. It'd be interesting to know if this is still open.
For our shell completion, we used to generate like a bunch of bash alias or bash shell completion code. Is that still how we're doing it?
Yeah, that's how Cobra does completion. I've dug into this recently, actually. There's like a function that converts the bash completion to Zesh completion. This person put up a PR, actually.
So there's another way we might want to do this. Like one thing with the completion, the way we're doing it, if it's still the way that it was some years ago, the commands were hard coded in, I think, or at least, this looks, yeah. A lot of there's quite a bit of logic in the bash RC or ZSH RC or whatever your shell of choice is. And so that means when you update coup control that it doesn't just naturally get whatever the latest, greatest shell completion is. And there's an alternative way of doing this, which is coup control itself, or the binary itself, can provide the shell completion. So instead of putting like all these bash functions, for instance, you just have one which invokes coup control itself and asks for the shell completion, which we have an example of for customize. So we may want to not invest heavily in continuing with this approach and switch to the other approach, which is to have coup control provide the completions.
I mean, doesn't coup kubectl already provide the completions if you type like kubectl completion or something? Doesn't it spit
Yeah, it
out?
does. There's a comment halfway through from Dennis Xrow. What is the best approach for this? A workaround is from March 28th. Oh, this one. And probably it is also solving the white spaces and literally everything that you have problems with. I'm not sure if.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, I was actually, so what kubectl completion does is it writes actually quite a bit. Let me get the word count on this thing. Okay, so kubectl writes close to 9,000 lines of shell completion. And what I was suggesting was having it write 3 lines of shell completion. And instead of implementing all the shell completion as bash or shell specific functions, that they actually are implemented in Go. Which it makes, because the thing with emitting 9,000 lines of shell completion is when you update kubectl, you need to regenerate that 9,000 lines of shell completion.
I think most people, my impression is most people will just source the output of kubectl completion Z shell in their Z shell RC or something. So every time they're getting it,
they just source it as starting up. Yeah, that works too. We can stick this the way it is. That's
most package managers will actually compile that file and write it out to your local share Zeesh or whatever I just pulled up. And that happens every time you upgrade via package manager. So yeah, most package managers take care of it too if you're not doing this.
So on this issue, I looked at this issue a little bit, and it wasn't really straightforward. I don't remember exactly what I ran into, but I did look at it when I was working on some other Z shell stuff, and it's really a problem with like it's a weird problem. Like if you're typing a long path and you type part of the path and complete it, it puts another space, and then you can't do successive completions after that, I guess is the problem. And I don't know that I didn't really look too closely at this PR, but I don't really right away see how this fixes it. Just, it looks like it cuts a whole bunch of stuff out. It looks like it gets rid of the completion actually, and I'm not sure, maybe that does fix it. I guess it just needs to be tried out.
You want to take a hands-on with reviewing that, Brian?
Yeah, I'll try it out and see if, I'll review it.
Okay, poke me too, because I've played with this code a bunch for another project. We just kind of ported it over, so cool.
Well, one quick point. So it seems like maybe with the Kubernetes reorg permissions a couple months ago, I've lost permissions on the on some projects in our repo. Mache or anyone, does anyone have, Mache, do you have permissions on the kubectl repo still? Like for,
so I asked Nikita about it a couple weeks back. I think that was right after our initial bug scrub. The thing is that since kubectl is being published as a staging repo, they are not giving away those higher privileges to anyone.
Okay, yeah, so, I lost permissions on the project. I had been keeping track of the bugs in the prioritized bug project, and yeah, okay, we could just use labels, but it's kind of a little bummer. It's a bummer that we don't have permissions on the projects to organize the bugs that way.
I'm not sure about projects though. Maybe worth reaching out, but I don't remember.
We should at least have permissions to create milestones and update milestones, and like there's some basic project, or like there's some basic management permissions that we need.
I'm not 100% sure how it looks with milestones, whether if you tag with a non-existing milestone, if it will allow you to create one or a one. I don't know about this one. Yeah.
Okay, 450. kubectl runs pods in various states when only those in running state are selected. I feel like we've seen this recently as an issue.
That's a really super old version that I wonder if it's still.
It is. I looked at it. At the bottom, I put what I found. So there, people are saying they want running pods. But let's see, I'm trying to remember what this exactly was, but there's not like a state, like when it generates the table, it's looking at the status and saying that it's ready, but there's not like a state that for the overall pod that has ready. It's like if all the containers in the pod are ready true, then it says ready in the output, but there's no like way to wait for that. Well, there is a way. So I put how I would say to do it, which is just like use a template to figure that out, I guess. I don't know. It wasn't like super clean, but I think it's just like a little bit of confusion about the state of pods versus the state of containers.
Yeah, and I think it was brought a couple of times already. And that basically applies both to pods and other workloads as well, because it is not straightforward. And the fact that there's phase and pods only makes it harder. Because, yeah.
Would adding another selector make it easier for people?
I think we should, there's a proposal, I'm not sure how far it will go with pods as well, about unifying status for resources, for workload resources. It might touch pods as well. Within SIG apps. I'm not sure how pods will benefit that one, but with pods it's complicated because there was an issue that I was struggling a couple days, weeks back, where containers were reporting readiness, each container on its own, yet the pod overall was not ready, and that you can get out of conditions on a pod level rather than per container. I think we present some basic information about the number of pods that is ready versus the overall number, but I can't remember in where. No, we do. We write under ready. We write how many pods actually pass the readiness checks in the ready column. So it's running plus ready. That's the best what we can present currently.
And if I remember correctly now, I think the confusion for this particular issue was all the containers are technically still ready, but the overall pod is in a terminating state, which is confusing. Well, it's not, when I say terminating state, we show a status of terminating, but all that really means is that the pod has a deletion timestamp. It doesn't mean that the containers are not themselves still ready for that short period of time while it's terminating.
Yeah, I thought we will be changing that. There's a reason that we are showing as soon as the pod has a deletion timestamp. We can't guarantee at what point in the pod lifecycle you can be in. That's why we've been always showing that as terminating.
And I think one thing is like nobody, since that reasons is set to terminating, I don't think that that is something that they can query against. Like there's no, in the JSON, there's nothing that says terminating. It's something we build into the output on the fly.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, there are more like that.
What action do we want to take here? Is there a clear thing we can do to close the issue, or is it just something we really can't fix on this end?
I'm not sure that the use case for this has been really fully explained. Like, I think it's more of a confusion thing for understanding what it means when it says terminating. And I'm not sure why somebody needs to know that particular status. I mean, I guess this is just my opinion. There's a workaround for it. So I think that probably makes it a little less urgent to fix, but I don't know long-term whether it makes sense. I mean, I'll leave that up to you guys.
I'll have a closer look at that issue after the call or tomorrow morning. And I'll point to specific pieces of code and why we did it this way, and I'll try to close it.
Cool. Thanks, guys. kubectl copy should work on stopped and completed pods.
It's a nice feature. I'm not sure if that's feasible.
Didn't we just suggest we get rid of or deprecate kubectl copy because of all of the security issues?
We wanted to go all the way that, but we didn't go as far. We went with, we will allow basic copying without links and all those additional whistles and whatnot on top of it. But basic copy of the file, yes. But I'm not sure about the running pod.
To me, it just sounds like they don't want to make a persistent volume. So because it's just something that's a one-time, one-off thing. So they just want to be able to copy into it later. But it's more of a convenience thing, I guess, is what I'm reading into it.
If that's their case, they should probably have some kind of, I don't know, catch a termination signal, or before exit, just upload the file to some resource and you're done.
How does the kubectl debug relate to this? I mean, if we have that ephemeral container, how would that relate?
I'm not sure if ephemeral containers will work with stopped containers in the first place. If I remember correctly, the majority of the commands, including the debug, will require a running pod. but I might be wrong.
I know there's like the development tools, like whatever windmill engineering's been working on in Garden. I'm pretty sure they let you do something similar with this, or they keep the pod alive somehow by running a sidecar or something. Should we just leave this one open because it's a valid request, or?
Yeah. We can eventually, because it has 2 priorities, we can just pick one of them if that's possible. Not sure how to do it though.
Yeah, I forgot to remove the priority 3 when I added priority 2. I'll fix that.
Does the container stick around, or how often does it get cleaned up after it's done running? Is it even technically possible to go on the kubelets?
I don't know.
I think somebody said there's a workaround if you farther up and toward the top of the, or like I guess maybe in the middle, there's some kind of weird workaround where you go on the node and you can actually go and find the file. It's a real hacky way of doing it. So I mean, there's the files that they want to copy are there on the nodes, just somehow, I don't know. It's probably not a reliable way.
Yeah, they're going into the var lib directory to find them. I don't know how often the garbage collection cleans up. Maybe it's part of the policy for the kubelet where they keep around X number of nodes out, pods after they're completed for jobs and stuff. So this would most likely have to work with the file system as opposed to like streaming outputs.
But if that's the case, could we even guarantee that the pod would be there, or the container would be there after the pod has been completed?
I would assume if it still shows up as completed, that it's still on the file system, but I don't know for sure. But this would require you to actually go into the node itself. Like you wouldn't be able, you'd have to spin something up with escalated privileges and then mount, or because if the container is not running, then it's just a file on the kubelet on the worker node.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is sort of a sort of a new feature that is needed that says this is not like a normal pod. This is a job pod, and this job produces an output, and that I want to get that output later type of thing. It's like the reason I want to copy something from there is not because, I mean, there's 2 use cases for copy, I guess. Number one is I have a running pod and I want to copy something from there, but this is like the job finished and produced some sort of output, and I want to be able to get that output. And I don't know if that's like, it feels like if we're building some workaround to copy things from a completed pod, it's right. It's really sort of like a new type of thing. I don't know if it's like another resource or something that says it's like a job product or something, a job artifact or something that can, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, I guess. But I wonder if this is more, if there's like 2 ways to approach this. Number one is like, yeah, we could somehow figure out a way to make copy work. Or number 2, we could kind of think about it more like, is there something else needed this is just a symptom of missing a thing in Kubernetes.
And one of the main use cases for copy is to copy out core dumps. I think that would probably, like that might fit into the debug, kubecontrol debug command. which was developed as a plugin too. So having a more specialized set of tools around, like you're right, this is very general. Like you could imagine, hey, I want to copy in some configuration into this pod so that the pod behaves the way I want it to, and when it's running in production, which would be like the exact wrong usage for this command. And then there's like, hey, what's the log file, or what weird thing is happening in my pod? And developing those as part of the debug command and making them maybe a little higher fidelity would make sense as well.
I don't think this is technically possible right now unless we're actually execing into the node. I mean, SSHing into the node or execing a privileged container to traverse the file system on the worker node.
And they could just make a volume and copy the output, or copy the output anywhere at the end of their job anyway. So it's not like they don't have a way of doing this currently.
Right. For the use case in here of, I have some results from my container, this seems like the wrong approach for that. You could also write them to, like you could write them to like a storage bucket someplace as well. It's probably a better pattern.
Should we push for this to be implemented as a plugin first, possibly?
Maybe it would make sense for this to be a nice addition to kubectl debug. But copy, like Phil said, with this use case, I don't see any value. This clearly says that the workflow is not appropriate. But I would argue that the debug and getting the core dump, like Phil said, is perfectly valid. But that's for that case, debug would be the best probably, because the core dump will be just one of the things that you'll be looking at where your pod failed. So it does make sense to have that kind of option.
Yeah, so maybe the right thing to do is reply in the issue to copy out data from your pod. That's to copy out data out of a successfully completed pod. You should probably write that to a volume or storage bucket or some persistent location. And to get like debug information out of a failed job, we should create we should probably extend the debug plugin or command, I'm not sure what its current state is, to look at this workflow more closely, for that workflow. Hey, Mache, do you have permissions to close these issues or respond? Or I guess I have comment permissions, but I swear, just like in the past couple hours, I've lost.
No, I'm pretty sure that you lost it the same time as I did when we started staging kubectl last year.
Oh,
Because
really?
I swear, yeah. I asked Nikita about it, and she says that for every report that we're staging, they don't allow this. I had the exact same rights as you did and shown.
Okay.
You can't do a /close either?
No, /close works fine.
Okay.
Works fine. Yet another incentive to to move out of and stop staging.
Okay, we got one time for this last one. Get Ingress still shows port 80 even though it is HTTPS only.
I swear I reviewed a PR that was fixing that on the server in the printers.
I'm refreshing my memory on this. I commented there. I think this is, I think this might be fixed.
Yeah, I remember approving some PR. I'm just looking at the code, but I'm pretty sure it was fixed along the way, not that far away.
We can ping Ahmet to see if it's been fixed, if he can follow up.
Yeah,
He's not
that's
on the
fair.
call, is he? I thought I saw him earlier. Okay. All right, I'll ping him on the thread. And with that, we're out of time.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Eddie, for organizing this one.
Thanks, Eddie.
Stay safe and see you next week.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We got through almost 25 issues, so good job getting rid of these old ones.
Cool.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.